If you're an American looking to move to the Czech Republic, this video is exactly for you. I will explain everything from the general visa process, where to apply, how to apply, to what options are available, which one is easier, which ones are more complicated, what is the most common way for Americans to get a visa for the Czech Republic, what documents you need, how long it will take, basically everything. Also what options are not available, because there are also some options Americans are often looking for, but they're not available in the Czech Republic. So all this and way more in today's video. Stick with me and let's go. So first of all, if you are an American, you can come to the Czech Republic or to the whole Schengen area for up to 90 days without any visa required. So if you want to just visit for up to 90 days, you don't need any visa to do that. You can just come. When you're crossing the Schengen border, you will get a stamp with today's date, and that's it. You need to leave before the 90 days run out, but besides that, nothing else needed. If you want to stay longer than the 90 days though, you need to apply for some kind of visa or residence permit. I will cover that later. For now, what is important is that any type of long-term visa or long-term residence permit must be applied for through a Czech embassy. So you cannot do it in the Czech Republic. You always have to apply through some Czech embassy outside of the Czech Republic. Generally, or as an American, you have this great advantage that you can apply through any Czech embassy which accepts visa applications. So you can do it in the US before you leave and come to the Czech Republic already holding the visa or the residence permit, or you can do it, which is the most common way for Americans, you can do it the way that you apply somewhere in Europe. So you come to the Czech Republic or to Europe in general, and then you start your visa process and apply for the visa somewhere in Berlin, Vienna, Brussels, Warsaw, wherever the Czech visa applications are accepted. As for the different visa options, Czech Republic doesn't offer anything like digital nomad visas or retirement visas. They used to, but the option is not available anymore. So if you want to move to the Czech Republic now, 2022 and further, you must always have some official, active purpose of stay. So you cannot just move here because you like it here and you want to live here. You must have some reason, like viable reason to do it in the Czech Republic, to live here and to do something here. The most common way of getting a visa for an American is through teaching English. Basically, you do it the way that you get a TOEFL certification, then you find 2-3 schools that are willing to hire you as an English teacher, or you find a couple individuals willing to take private lessons from you, and you apply for a visa based on that fact. You basically become a freelancer, you get a trade license, freelancing license, and then you apply for a business visa. You can find different names for the business visa, like Živno visa, freelancer visa, entrepreneur visa, whatever, but it all refers back to the same thing. Basically, you become a freelancer, you get a freelancing license, and then you apply for a visa based on that. The second most popular visa option among our American clients at Move to Prague Relocation Experts is a student visa, or some sort of it. Because there are basically two types of visa related to studies in the Czech Republic. One is the proper student visa, which usually has the 2324 code in the actual visa or residence permit, but it's only meant for accredited programs of public universities or accredited program of accredited universities. So that's mainly like the Czech University of Life Sciences or Czech Technical University or Charles University. On the other hand, in most cases, the private universities, such as Anglo-American University or University of New York in Prague, those are not accredited, or not all of their programs are accredited. So in that case, you cannot apply for the student visa, but you're applying for the other purpose of stay. But basically, both are related to studies, so they're still kind of easy to get. The remaining visa types are not that common among Americans, but they're there, so let me explain all the options you have. So maybe I will take a step back to the first option, like teaching English. Because teaching English, as I mentioned, falls under the business visa. So if you want to come here to do business, but you don't want to teach English, that's an option for you as well. But we've had many clients who are not an English teacher, but anytime you apply for a business visa based on some other purpose of or different type of business than teaching English, then it gets more complicated, because the Ministry of the Interior, who is responsible for approving all the visas, long-term visas, they kind of have their mindset on Americans coming here as English teachers. So if you don't fit into that box, they will start like, they will get confused and they will start asking questions, and they will definitely go deeper into your story, and they will try to find more reasons to deny the application. So we've had successful clients with different business plans, let's say, but in case you don't want to go for teaching English, but some different type of business, you need to be aware that the process will be way more complicated and you need to be way more prepared. So that's the business visa. It's still an option, even if you're not an English teacher, but it just gets a bit more complicated. Another option would be finding a regular job, like employment. And in that case, you can apply either for an employee card or for a blue card, depending on the level of the job. I would assume that you will not come here for an employee card, because employee card is meant for any type of position or level of salary, level of education. If you come here, I guess you're moving for a better job or for a good job. So in that case, you might better go for the blue card. That's meant for people who have at least bachelor's degree and whose salaries will be higher than the 1.5 of the national average. So at this point, it's about 60,000 crowns. Next year probably will be more, and they increase it basically every year. Then basically what is left is a cultural visa. We've had a couple Americans who came here as actors, for example, or opera singers. So if this is your case, and if you have some Czech cultural institution like a museum or a theater or some kind of, we have a Shakespeare company sponsoring someone. So in that case, you can also apply for a cultural visa, even though it's not very common. And basically the last option is just for family members. So let's say you are the main applicant, you apply for the employee card or business visa, and you want to bring your spouse or your kids. So in that case, they can kind of easily get their family reunification visas and move here just to live here with you. So that's the only reason when you just want to live here with someone, because where you don't need to have some active purpose of stay, where you can just live here, because you're following the main applicant. So these are the general visa options. As for the documents you need, obviously that's different for different visa types, but I can give you a general idea. I've definitely done videos about all the different visa types, so just scroll through my channel and find a video you're interested in. But just to give you an idea, what you always need is an application form, passport. Passport must be valid for, let's say, 1.5 more years, must have at least 2 blank pages, cannot be older than 10 years. There are many rules like that for all the documents, but I'll just go through everything with you briefly. So, application form, different for every visa type, but Czech and English, pretty simple to fill in. Passport, 2 passport size photos, proof of accommodation. That's kind of a stupid part of the process, but actually it's solvable for Americans, because if you want to get any type of visa or any type of residence permit, you must have accommodation arranged for at least a year. So that's why most Americans do it the way that they come to Europe first and then start the visa process here. Because if you're in the Czech Republic, you can actually find an apartment where you will be living, and you can use the lease agreement as your proof of accommodation. If you want to apply from the US, which is also a possibility, then you would still need to find a place to live, which might be a bit more complicated. So that's why most people do it the way that they come here, find a flat, and apply for the visa somewhere in Europe. So proof of accommodation, proof of funds. For most visa types, you need to prove that you have enough money in your bank account. In 2022, the requirement for students, the other purpose of stay, and family members is to have equivalent of at least 111,000 crowns in your bank account, which would be roughly how much? $4,500 US probably. It will increase from next year, but as of now it's like this. For business visa, the required amount is equivalent to 149,000 Czech crowns, so roughly $6,000, something like that. Again, it will increase from next year, so I will update you about that. So you need to have some proof of having this much money in your bank account. Then you always need to have some documents on the purpose of your stay. So if you're a student, you need to have the enrollment letter for the university for the program. If you're applying for a business visa, you need to have either a business plan or some letters of interest from the different schools or private individuals, something like that. If you're applying for an employee card or a blue card, you must have an employment contract from some Czech employer, and so on and so on. If you're applying for the cultural visa, you need to have some letter or some contract with the cultural institution in the Czech Republic. That's documents on the purpose of your stay, and usually the last thing is a criminal check from the country of your origin, so it must be from the US. If you're dealing with the visa process in the US, you would need to get the FBI check and get it apostilled and translated into Czech. If you're applying from Europe, you basically can just go to the US embassy in the Czech Republic, raise your fingers, swear that you're a good person, and that's everything you need, so-called affidavit about not being a criminal. So that's a general list of documents. If you need to know more, check one of my videos. I've done videos about all the different visa types, so you definitely find it on my channel. And the last thing is how long it takes to get the visa approved, or maybe also the process. Okay, let's speak a bit about the process. So basically, it works the way that you need to collect all the documents depending on the visa type you're applying for. Then take the documents to some Czech embassy, so you need to book an appointment with that embassy first, which can be pretty complicated in Europe, for example, because most of the embassies are booked for weeks or months in advance. So it's not like you just call them, hey, can I come tomorrow? But you usually send them an email saying, hey, can I come 3 months later? So you need to take this into consideration if you're applying from within Europe, because you can only spend here 90 days, and you need to have the visa sorted within the 90 days. Because officially, the fact that you submitted the application within the 90 days doesn't mean that you can overstay, that you can stay here and wait until the visa is approved. Of course, most people do that, honestly, just among us and all the people watching on the internet. So most people overstay, which is in most cases fine, but it's illegal, and I officially cannot recommend it, because if a police officer stops you on the street and they see that you've been overstaying, they will deport you. They can even ban you from coming back for half a year or a year. Or even if you can come back, you will most likely never get a visa because you've already broken the law. So it would complicate your life a lot. So I definitely not recommend overstaying the 90 days. So you need to plan everything carefully if you're applying in Europe. But basically, once you get all the documents, you submit them, or you book an appointment at the embassy, you go there and you submit the application. For the business visa and the student visa, there are basically always interviews where they question you about the intention. So like why you chose the Czech Republic, what exactly you want to do here, and then different questions specific to either the business or the studies you will be, or the program you will be studying here. I've done a video about the questions as well, so you can check it somewhere. I'll share the link somewhere later. So that's one thing. And then once you submit the application and pass the interview, then you just wait. As Americans, usually the visa process or the approval process, you're considered one of the safe nationalities. So usually the approval process is faster than for other nationalities. As I mentioned, African countries or like Asian countries, for you it's easier. So the shortest approval we've had for basically the business visa and an employee card, which usually take the most time. So the shortest we've had was about 10 to 14 days, like around 2 weeks. But that's not very common. For most of the visa types, the ministry making the decision have 60 to 90 days to make the decision. But they can often take way longer. Depends a bit at the embassy where you apply, but not in the way that like the embassy in Vienna will take shorter than the embassy in Berlin. It's not like that, because embassies don't make the decisions. Okay, embassies just take the documents, do the interviews, but then they take all the documents and send them to the Czech Republic, to the Ministry of the Interior, where the decision is made. So embassies don't have like this direct impact on how long it takes. But the problem is, or the thing is, that you need to ship, or they need to ship the documents physically to the Czech Republic. So if you apply in Vienna, the documents will be here in 2 days. If you apply in Washington, D.C., it will take 3 weeks to get the documents delivered. So this is the main delay. But besides that, the ministry does not really care about any deadlines. For most of the visa types, they have 60 to 90 days. Sometimes, as mentioned, they can make the decision in 2 weeks, but sometimes they can take even like 6 months or 1 year, depending on how realistic the application seems. For example, as I mentioned, if you apply as an English teacher, it's a common story, they understand everything, the approval might come pretty fast. If you apply with a different business plan, it might take considerably longer. They might invite you for an additional interview or request some additional documents, because it's not the standard in-the-box kind of thing for them. So I guess this is it. If you have any questions, comment, I will be happy to reply. I basically reply all the comments. Or if you want, if you have some deeper questions or something you would appreciate a video answer from me, so please consider subscribing or becoming a subscriber or a fan, or however it's called here. Just become a subscriber. And if you need any help with the whole process, like the complete thing, like check your documents, book the embassy appointment, guide you through the whole process, get in touch with us as well through any of the links in the description, and we'll be happy to help. So hopefully this video was helpful, and see you next time, guys. Bye bye.